Two men accused of murdering British businessman Campbell Scott will remain in remand.
Arrested 3 suspects connected to the brutal killing of 17
suspect in the murder of Kasipul Member of Parliament Charles Ongondo.
When detectives can track killers through forest, follow footprints in the mud, drag culprits out of hiding within hours, yet suddenly fall silent when a man is shot dead under the bright lights of the city, then the problem is no longer the forest. The darkness lies within the system itself. Justice delayed is justice denied. It has now been 8 days since celebrated city lawyer Mbobu was brutally gunned down along Magadi Road on his way home to Karen. And, ladies and gentlemen, what we have witnessed is not business as usual. The silence of the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, the very unit we rank as one of the best in Africa, is deafening. This is the same DCI that cracked Charles Ongondo's murder in Nairobi City within days. They unmasked the ringleader, tracked down collaborators, even brought down financiers, including traitors close to the victim himself. This is the same DCI that moved with lightning speed after the brutal killing of Wells Fargo's HR boss, Willis Ayiko, in October 2024. Within 48 hours, suspects were in custody, the case already unfolding. But here, in the case of Mbobu, silence, delay, murmurs. Tell me, how can a murder carried out in the open, along a quiet city road, become harder to solve than one committed deep in the shadows of Nyamninia, Siaya? Why do I feel this silence is not incompetence, but design? Could there be a powerful hand pressing down on the scale of justice? Because, ladies and gentlemen, when you see a hunter abandon rabbits and gazelles mid-chase, it can only mean one thing. A lion is on the horizon. And this time, the DCI are not hunting criminals. They are staring at power. Listen carefully. When you study murders, something speaks louder than the bullets. The courage of the killer. 2 men, a motorcycle, no panic, no rush. They stalk their prey with the calm of men who already know the road belongs to them. One dismounts. He walks slowly, like Magadi Road itself bends to his command. No trembling hands, no desperate dash. He reaches the car, pulls out his weapon and empties 8 bullets. Not 1, not 2, 8. Each shot was deliberate. Each shot was certain, until the lawyer is lifeless. And then, calmly, without fear, he holsters his gun, walks back, mounts the bike, and disappears into the Nairobi night. That, my friends, is not courage. That is confidence. The confidence of a man who knows he will never be touched. A killer who knows he is shielded. When a shooter behaves as though he owns the city, it means he does not fear the police, the courts, or even the system meant to stop him. This is the story of the murder of city lawyer Kyalo Mbobu. And it tells us more than the bullets. It tells us about the power behind the trigger, the oak tree that towers even above intelligence itself. And here at LifeLens TV, we will not throw reckless accusations. We will not point fingers. Instead, we will give you the dots. We will lay out the paths, and you, our dear viewers, will be the jury. You will connect the dots for yourself. So let us go back. Back to 1989, the days of Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. The one-party state, the fight for multi-party democracy. One man stood at the front lines, retired Captain Kung'u Muigai, chairman of the National Council of Elders. He was among those pushing for multi-partyism, and for that, he was marked, harassed, targeted, his businesses frustrated, because opposing KANU in those days meant going against Moi, and even worse, against the Kenyatta family to whom he was related. The clash between Kung'u Muigai and the Kenyatta dynasty began there. And decades later in 2022, when the Kenyattas backed Raila Odinga for the presidency, Kung'u Muigai openly defied them and stood with William Ruto. That decision, ladies and gentlemen, was not random. It was rooted in wounds from 1989. Now back then, in the middle of his push, Captain Muigai applied for a loan. 23 million shillings from KCB to expand into floriculture. He put in his own money, 13 million, waiting for the bank to release the rest. But the KANU regime moved in. The loan was frustrated, only 9 million was disbursed. The project was crippled. When he turned to the courts for justice, what did he find? Judge after judge ruling against him. Later he discovered why. The judges were being bribed. The bribes were traced back to KANU. It is said even 1 million shillings exchanged hands to tilt verdicts. And the lawyer standing beside Captain Muigai in those endless battles. The man filing papers, arguing motions, fighting corruption in the courts. None other than Kyalo Mbobu. Yes, the very man whose murder has now shaken the city. Years passed, but frustration grew. Together, Muigai and Mbobu began gathering evidence. Real, concrete evidence. Videos. Hidden recordings from hotel basements. Judges caught receiving bribes on camera. Party officials handing over dirty money. Meetings held to plan how justice would be strangled before it reached the courtroom. And, ladies and gentlemen, all this evidence key was in the custody of one man. Lawyer Kyalo Mbobu. Evidence that, if it ever surfaced, would shatter reputations, crumble dynasties, expose the rot from the roots to the branches. So let me ask you this. Do you really need rocket science to guess who would never want those tapes to see the light of day? Do you really need someone to tell you who bribed the judges when the trail leads back to the very moment KANU blocked Muigai's loan? The dots are there. The question is, who dares to connect them?
My name is Captain Kung'u Muigai. I'm the chairman of the...
On the morning of September 9th, 2025, Kenya woke up to a bombshell. Retired Captain Kung'u Muigai, the same man who has lived under the shadow of KANU's repression since 1989, released a 15-minute video. In it, he traced the long, painful history of corruption, intimidation, and judicial capture. But he did more than speak. He promised. He told the country that the evidence, the smoking gun, would be handed over to the press the very next day, September 10th. And who was keeping this evidence safe? The man by his side through it all. His lawyer. The custodian of truth, Mbobu. But by evening of that very day, the lawyer was dead. Assassinated. Gunned down on Magadi Road. Coincidence? My dear viewers, you tell me, is that coincidence? Evidence was to meet the press at dawn. Instead, blood met the tarmac at dusk.
And indeed, Bob Chalo, who was going to give evidence about how various judges have been bribed with a lot of money, and he was also the custodian of very, very crucial evidence.
Someone, somewhere, made sure that evidence would never see daylight. But such a move carried danger, because evidence of judicial bribery from the Moi and KANU era was not just history. It implicated powerful men, still alive, still influential, still unwilling to be exposed. And someone decided the only way to stop the revival was to silence the evidence holder. Now let's walk through Kyalo Mbobu's last hours. That evening, he met 3 men at Sagret Hotel, Muhia, Mbugua, and George Wainaina. Not strangers, neighbors, friends. In Karen, Their homes are just meters apart. Morning jogs together, social visits, family ties. Why then would they choose a hotel meeting for matters they could easily discuss over a garden fence or a morning run? The DCI traced Mbobu's movements through CCTV, and the contradictions began. Wainaina said he only came to lunch with his nephew Mbugua, yet CCTV shows him handing over documents to Muhia. If it was a coincidence, why carry documents in the first place? In law, contradiction is a dangerous shadow. Even if you are innocent, a single slip, a single mismatch with evidence drags you toward guilt. And that is why all three men, Muhia, Wainaina, and Mbugua, were arrested. But, ladies and gentlemen, here is where the story bends sharply. At the heart of this web sits George Wainaina, not just a neighbour, not just a friend, but the Secretary General of KANU. KANU. Again. The same party that harassed Captain Muigai. The same party was tied to bribery evidence. The same party that never wanted those tapes to breathe. Coincidence or continuity? Now let us step into Wainaina's Karen home the night of his arrest. What did investigators find? 50 million shillings. In cash, stacked neatly. Wainaina said it was from business. But let us pause. Let us reason. In the 21st century, in the age of digital banking, mobile transfers and corporate checks, who keeps 50 million in cash? In Kenya, any transaction above 1 million triggers scrutiny. Banks demand explanations, ledgers leave trails, auditors ask questions. Cash is king, but only for corruption. Because cash leaves no fingerprints. Cash cannot be subpoenaed. Cash hides the trail. Ladies and gentlemen, when you see millions stored in banknotes under mattresses, you are not looking at ordinary business. You are staring at concealed transactions, money that must not be traced. And when the man holding it is the Secretary General of the very party tied to past judicial bribery, then eyebrows do not just rise, they shoot into the sky. And so, we return to the crime scene. September 9th. Evening. A motorcycle follows a car. Two men aboard, calm, confident. They choose their spot. One dismounts. He walks slowly to the vehicle. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't hurry. He fires 8 shots. Each bullet precise, each one final. He walks back with the same calmness, mounts the bike, and disappears. That, my friends, is not courage. That is assurance. The assurance of a man backed by power. A man who knows no police will chase him. A man who knows the system itself will cover his tracks. And that is why, for 8 days, the DCI, the same detectives who cracked tougher cases within hours, have been silent, folding their tails. Because this time, they are not hunting criminals. They are staring directly at power. So, ladies and gentlemen, I leave the dots with you. Who killed city lawyer Kyalo Mbobu? Who would benefit from silencing him on the very day evidence was set to reach the press? Who would tremble if tapes of bribery, filmed in basements, sealed in envelopes? And why? After decades of tracing footprints in forests, after arresting killers in villages within hours, does the DCI suddenly choke on a case committed in broad daylight in Nairobi? The answers, my friends, are not far. They are here, in the dots I have laid out. You be the judge. From us here at LifeLens TV, we've put everything bare. If you are new, don't forget to like this video, share it widely, and subscribe so that you never miss an episode like this one. Until next time, stay alert, stay informed, and may God bless you. Goodbye for now.